Welcome to the newest episode of the Needless Things podcast. You know, we talk about toys all the time on the show, and that's what the channel is all about. Well, tonight we're talking to a very special guest who is bringing a very different type of toy entertainment than we usually discuss, and that is Brett Barton, who is now one of the minds or the mind behind Toylanta now.
Currently, yeah, I'm pretty much the guy behind the scenes at Toylanta now. That's not how it always was, but that's just how it is now.
So we got a ton to talk about because obviously we have to talk about what's happening at the 2025 show that is bigger and better than ever, especially since you've teamed up with PowerCon, which is wild, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Anybody watching or listening, check out toylanta.net for all of the details, but we're certainly going to talk about some highlights here on the show. But before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about your background, about how, like, what toys got you started as a collector, what you grew up with, that kind of stuff. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. When you were growing up, what were the things you were playing with?
Well, like most kids that are now in their 40s, I started with Masters of the Universe. Still have a large affection for it. Uh, you know, and then transitioned into Joe, and Joe took precedent over a lot of things because it was easier to move around, and you could pack a whole lot more guys in a lunchbox. But yeah, got into Turtles later on, but not a little bit as a kid, but a lot more as an adult.
Yeah, I had a similar path. I started at Mego, Star Wars, then G.I. Joe was like the big thing for me. Obviously, Little Masters of the Universe, but G.I. Joe was the big one. And then weirdly, same thing, transitioned from Joe to Turtles. Like,
yeah.
I think a lot of us who did. So, did you ever go through that phase of not collecting?
Only out of inability due to dollar amounts or accessibility. There in the early 2000s and stuff, or around the college years, I would be lucky to find like something in the Toys R Us that I could actually get and hold dear. But I mean, shortly after that, I transitioned into a lot of selling and reselling. So very limited interaction of no collecting period. Very limited. I've always kind of collected or had, something.
Yeah, I'm the same way. When I've broken it down, I've realized there was like maybe about a year-ish of high school where I wasn't really buying anything, but when I look back, it's all the way through. I never lost interest. I never wanted to stop doing it. There was always something. Like every year I can look at some line that was like, oh, that's the thing I was into that year.
Oh yeah. Especially like in let's say mid 90s to early 2000s, we'll call it the high school and college years. Like Spawn figures, anything that Four Horsemen Studios were involved in, the 2000X Masters of the Universe. I mean, that's the stuff that I would, gravitate to because of, I mean, just the transition of how toys were in general. Like, sculpting, paint app was just new and different and state of the art.
Well, that's McFarlane came along and really, initially McFarlane Toys putting out the stuff that was more action figure-y. They had the knees and the articulation and whatever else. But
the
then
Toys days.
Right. And then he really made that change, though, into, and I think Movie Maniacs were some of the first things that were big where he did it, where toys turned into art. Like it was less about the playability and more about, whoa, look at the sculpt and the paint and like this little incredible statue that I can actually afford.
Oh, yeah. And as, we were aging with it too. The collector that was the kid in Toys R Us has now become, the teen or the young adult in Toys R Us, sifting through the aisles. And I remember getting my first job around 96, 97 to collect the Toys R Us G.I. Joes.
Yes.
Like that was it. Like, because like I didn't have funding for it, and I was just like, I got to do something. I was like, I got to buy these things, because you're at the age where your folks or anybody around you that was getting you presents are like, you're too old for that. Like, you're too old for that. We're not going to buy you G.I. Joes. Here's some socks. you know.
I remember, and I can't remember what year it came out, but the year I asked my mom for that Star Trek, it was a Playmates Star Trek Bridge box set with the original cast.
Yeah,
It's a really nice looking set if you get it mint in box. It's got
yeah,
like 2 levels of the bridge. I remember
yeah.
asking my mom for that for one year, for Christmas one year, and she was kind of like, "That's what you want for Christmas?" I was like, "Yes. Have you seen it?"
It's, that was probably 94 or 95, somewhere in that
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so can you pinpoint where it was less but and look, to this day, I still consider like when I'm reviewing something or putting it up on the shelf or whatever. I mean, technically I'm still playing with toys, but I
Right.
would consider myself more a collector now than playing with toys. Can you pinpoint where you kind of changed over to where it was more about I want to collect this line as opposed to
Uh,
just playing with stuff?
Aside from Masters of the Universe, the only things that I tried to collect all of was Joe, and I accomplished that O-rings a few times. And since having kids, like I really don't try to collect an entire line unless it is like, like it really appeals to me. I get what I like.
Yeah.
And fortunately or unfortunately, there are certain companies that put out a ton of what I like. I just didn't know it before I see it, and then I see it and I'm like, crap, I got to go get that. The independent toy scene is a lot of that these days, where I am kind of burnout on some of the main streamlined things, where I'm kind of burnout on the product quality or execution. And, I'll just kind of either get what I want, or I'll get sort of like a nod version from an independent, or I'll get some sort of, I'll start diving into the toy art or the toy aspect of the independent, not necessarily the mythos. And then sometimes it's all of it. Sometimes I'll get in, the mythos will get me, the toy quality will get me, the price point will get me. And now all of a sudden I'm collecting Animals Warriors of the Kingdom, and I've got, 40 figures. So, I'm building armies out of, monkeys and stuff. So,
It's funny how stuff gets you because that's how I am with Operation Monster Force from Fresh Monkey
Oh,
Fiction.
those are
Those
pretty rad. Yeah.
I am I'm not a completist on anything. I cherry pick. Now, granted, I pick a lot more cherries from some lines than others, but I still consider myself a cherry picker. I don't feel beholden to like I gotta buy every single thing. But
Well, you'll be
those
happy.
Operation Monster Force figures,
You'll be happy because they're going to be at Toylanta, so that might save
I
you on
know.
some shipping.
Yeah, yeah, I'm very excited. Actually, we'll go ahead and mention it right now. The Toylanta exclusive. Hang on, I had it pulled up here. Here we go.
Me too.
Uh, exclusive figure ATL 25 from Four Horsemen, who will also be in attendance. Oh, you've got it. Oh my gosh, look at it. Hang on, wait. I'm going to put you up on the big screen. We got to take a closer look at that thing. I kid you not, they moved the screens around on me. I can't figure them out anymore.
Hey,
Look at that. Ah, beautiful.
got the back by 1/6 shooter.
And so what makes this significant is that ATL 25 tampo on the chest that is only on this edition of the figure. And then I think aren't the some of the accessories are going to be exclusive as well.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
and I've got those right here. So this is the head that is the exclusive head. Originally, it was advertised as the other head, which was the science officer head. It's kind of got like the two almost bug eyes on the side of it. Kind of looks like a praying mantis.
Right,
But
right.
that is not actually the exclusive head. This one is the exclusive head.
Okay.
It's kind of got like the xenomorph style.
I was just thinking that.
It's just different alien on, and then you're going to have the shield. That is and that collapses too, locks in. That you'll have with it, and then the baton, which is really cool. And
And
those are
this
all going to be
is
exclusives.
pick up on site only.
Not necessarily. You can
Oh,
buy
okay,
the
okay.
ATL VIP ticket, and that guarantees you the figure and the special badge and some other goodies we haven't announced yet. And that way you guaranteed your figure. It is a pre-sale of the figure, but we only have so many units of that available, and probably half or more of those tickets have sold. 50% or more of those tickets are sold. So getting it actually at a pre-sale is, not as many units left as what's going to be available on site to ticket holders.
Well, with something like this, it's always best to secure it ahead of time if you can, because day of show, they're going to be gone.
Yeah, we're allotting a certain amount per day.
Oh,
Like
nice. Okay.
I'm taking X number of units on Friday available, X number of units on Saturday available, and X number of units on Sunday available. The only reason with that is because I myself have attended shows, and the exclusive is basically being sold out or pre-bought by those that are just going to flip it. And
right.
As a guy that collects, I don't want that happening with any kind of exclusive that I'm involved in. The control of the aspect is get it to the consumer, not get it to the guy that's going to buy 3 and flip them on eBay.
That's awesome because not only that, but also everybody's got a day job, everybody's got a family. Sometimes you just can't make it on Friday. Sometimes you can't even make it on Saturday. Sometimes Sunday is all you can get. So to know, hey, I can get there Sunday morning and still get one of these is great.
Yeah, it will definitely be lower numbers available on Sunday. I would imagine the units available would be about a third of what we allow for Friday. But I mean, this is a step in the direction that the shows are going to be focusing on with a lot of independent companies or other toy lines. Hopefully, some of the big companies will also follow suit and pay attention. I've had a discussion with one or two. Hopefully this being able to get some things from Toylanta or Joe Lanta or any other shows that Good Journey LLC is involved with, that feeds kind of the need that you're not finding in the aisle right now at Target or Walmart. So hopefully we'll find, that where there'll be a figure or two available at any show that we do that, or maybe even an online exclusive you can purchase. Well, hopefully those are the directions that we can go.
Well, and the thing is, even if the big companies don't bite, you can still pack a house with all these independent companies putting out incredible product right now. Four Horsemen, Fresh Monkey Fiction, Boss Fight Studio. You've got all the guys making O-rings, Robert Carson Metaxas with Operation Recall, Grindstone Toys, at which he will be at Toylanta. So if you're local to Atlanta and you've thought, man, I'd love to have Carson sign this gigantic book, but I don't want to haul it to Augusta, just bring it down the road to Atlanta, and you can, which is what I'm doing, by the way. I'm bringing the Art of G.I. Joe because I want him to sign it. Cool, but it wasn't going to be a road trip.
That's a book, right? That's a weapon.
I have often said I have to rearrange my room every time I want to sit down and read it.
You could buy like 4 or 5 of those books and have a patio. Like it's you have like stones to your porch there.
But there's so many independent companies now doing amazing things, and it's exciting that these conventions give you the opportunity to talk to them, to interact with them, to find out how, because we've had a number of them on the show, and I love talking about the process of dealing with the factories and the creative process and the changes, and like being able to talk to these people face to face. As a lifelong toy fan, when you were a kid, you never imagined you'd get to talk to the people who made Masters Universe figures or G.I. Joe figures. And now you can meet these people and find out the process and find out the story behind like the newest Operation Monster Force figure or whatever. Like it's an amazing time to be a toy collector right now.
Absolutely. And me personally, toys and toy designs and being involved with creating toys, that was something that I tried to do numerous years ago. And I don't want to say that I failed at it. It's just really the direction in which my life went was not that. But full circle, coming back, I'm involved in a handful of things, buddy. Like the stuff's coming around.
Well, that's I've talked about this before. Like my goal within the next few years is to have a toy store. But my fear related to that is because I know so many people who, they open a toy store of one kind or another, and then they end up trying to do toys. And I don't, as much as I love toys, I know enough about the headache of them that I don't want to be involved with the process of making them. I just want to be talking about them and selling them. That's
Oh
as
yeah,
far as I want to get.
everybody's got their niche. There's some things where some of the friends that I have involved with a toy company or another, they just kind of maybe call and pick my brain over something. And then there's other things that might actually require me picking something up and taking it somewhere. It's I want toys to continue past our generation.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not putting things out and we're not getting kids involved or we're not getting the properties expanded, then they're gone. Like they're pretty much like, we've got a small window here of which, because you can walk down the aisles and of any Walmart or Target and see what's working, what's selling, and what's marketed at dudes in their 40s plus.
Right. And fortunately, though, there are still some good kids' toy lines out there.
There are.
Like, I appreciate that Mattel, with their WWE stuff, is still putting stuff out for kids. Like, yes,
Sure.
obviously they've got their collector-oriented stuff, but there's
Yeah.
kids' stuff too. You look at Hasbro still, and I don't think they've quite found the right formula yet. But every couple years, they try a new kid-oriented line, and they've had some success and some not so successful things. But like,
You can say Sigma 6, it's fine.
no, dude, I'll tell you right now, Sigma 6, I think, is massively underappreciated. When it came
It is.
out, I was not into it. I bought one because I'm the guy that has to buy one to check it out.
Sure.
But it wasn't for me. But holy cow, it's an incredible toy line.
Sure. Sigma 6, Sergeant Savage, G.I. Joe Extreme, all of those things have positive things about them. It's just that you don't see it at the time, or it wasn't your speed at the time. Looking back, like some of the storylines and the packaging on Sergeant Savage stuff, I love it. It's amazing. The cartoon that they had, the promo cartoon. I wish that was still like, I wish there was, maybe another, couple episodes or a movie, it could really float, but it's kind of hard to do World War II in this day and age with how stips are on things.
Well, and, even Renegades, which was,
I love Renegades.
More recent, I didn't like it at the time, but revisited it a few years ago. And I'm like, this might be the best G.I. Joe we've ever gotten.
It's a very good cartoon, and I like a lot of it because it pulls from multiple mythos of different things. But the biggest thing that it pulls from that worked was the A-Team. It's got A-Team vibes throughout every bit of it, including the van, going on. And it works. They basically melded A-Team with the actual Renegades and Rawhides and put it into something that worked.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a shame we never got a toy of that van.
And the animation is definitely not my favorite, and I think that had to do with a lot of its failure at launch.
That was a problem at the time.
Yeah,
that was a problem for me too, is I didn't like the style of the animation, but watching it now, it's executed beautifully.
The story does so much better. The first couple episodes, no, but once it gets into its groove, the story you kind of get away from the animation, even though if it's not your thing, the story kind of tells itself, and you kind of like forget that it's kind of like Nickelodeon Hey Arnold looking animation,
I'm not sure I'd go that far, but it's definitely not the Sunbow we grew up.
I was going to say Sunbow was superior,
right?
Even DIC there was a little bit better. So, and I'm not knocking the artist. That's a style. That's their style.
Yeah, it's a style. And everybody has their own preferences for everything, which is one of the awesome thing about toys. Everyone can find a thing that they're into.
Yeah.
So before we move on, because we're going to switch gears in just a minute and focus solely on Toylanta, but real quick, a little more toy talk. So what is, as a collector, as somebody who cannot resist the allure of toys, what's the last dumb thing you bought?
Oh, God.
That you kind of bought on impulse and then were like, why did I get this?
I mean,
Just to set the stage.
I buy a lot of stupid things just because it's like a character. But I'd say probably the dumbest thing that I bought in general was, so I'm not a big pop guy.
Right.
It's not my thing. I have a bunch of them because they either
Everybody
came in a
does.
collection or it came into a lot or something like that. But and that's what it was. It was a collection of pops because there was some like the Masters of the Universe stuff was in there.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't really want pops, but they have pretty much all these Masters of the Universe ones, and it's Masters of the Universe. So I try to buy everything, which is a terrible idea to have, especially with foreign stuff. I spent a stupid amount of money on some pops to get the Masters of the Universe, and I literally took them to a store in the area and was just like, all right, I'm pulling all the Masters of the Universe out. What are you going to give me for all this? So they gave me like pennies for, but I mean, it had like the store displays in it, like the Masters of the Universe pop store displays,
Oh, nice.
So I got all that stuff. And I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's stupid. I mean, stuff's just kind of sitting in the garage right now, not even set up anywhere. So, I mean, yeah, but whatever. It's Masters Universe. So, yeah.
Well, I would love to have a rule of if I can't display it, I'm not going to buy it. But I've got totes and totes and totes just sitting back there of like every once in a while, something's got to come down to make room for something else. And I'm not at a point where I'm getting rid of anything yet. So it is what it is.
I cycle a lot of stuff out. Like, for example, G.I. Joe. I collect classifieds, but I don't. I pick up what I really want. I've got a kid that's all in on classifieds, and a couple years ago when he started expressing interest in G.I. Joe and some of the other kids, because I got 5, were interested in playing with him with the stuff. I was just like, okay, I pulled out a handful of my Joes, like sentimental ones that I got from a relative that passed or something. And I was like, okay, now you guys just take all these Joes, they're yours. It's all yours. Just take it. And they had great times and great battles for this day and age. Kids aren't entertained in the same way as we were growing up in the 80s.
Yeah.
And but they had their time with it. Now it's their collection. I just kept basically the special teams or something special, and Joe now is classifieds for me. And if I buy a classified character and I don't have the vintage character anymore, I may go rebuying something that I already give to the kids. But I don't care. Like, it's more of a, like Saw Vipers one, Saw Vipers one that just came out that I picked up and I was like, dang it. I know I gave that one to him. I gotta go get another one.
Yeah, I'm similarly with classified when one comes out that I don't have the original, or even that I didn't have the original when I was a kid, because rebuilding my vintage collection, my vintage Joe collection, you start off as, well, I'm just going to rebuy what I had when I was a kid. And that stops. Right. That stops almost immediately. And what I'm doing now with classified is like with Saw Viper, I never had that one as a kid. It was after my time of getting out of Joe. And I get the classified Saw Viper and I'm like, I guess I know what I'm going to be looking for at Toylanta.
He's a character that I always liked in the comics because he's, brutal.
Yeah.
But I just never really, as a kid, I didn't care for the 3 3/4 toy because it was rather difficult to, put his gear and stuff on. And I was always afraid I was going to break his fingers and stuff.
Yeah.
Break that thumb, putting that gun in there. So I always had him in like a generic vanilla pose, with like the,
yeah.
This is like pointed up,
Yeah.
But like that was one where that classified came out and I was like, oof, that's rad. Like I gotta have that. Yeah.
Deserves a revisit.
I just wish it was on like a retro card because I'm not huge on the boxes. I don't really care for that.
Mine are all open, so I
open them all too when I get a chance. But I just, I don't know, something about that retro card really appeals to me. I just
yeah. I prefer, like with Marvel Legends, I get more excited about the retro card figures.
Absolutely, like the secret ones that just came out.
Yeah, they're incredible, but they don't come with a Build-A-Figure piece, so technically they're a worse monetary deal than the regular figures, but I get more excited to buy those.
Absolutely.
Even though I'm going to open them.
Nostalgia appeal, which is a lot of it for me on any of it. Like, again, stupid purchases, things like that. Like I a long time ago gave up trying to collect Marvel Legends. Like that's just like to me, that is just a losing financial battle. Because within 3 weeks, there's going to be a different version of Black Costume Spider-Man that's superior.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, and I've kind of like made my bed and laid in it with certain characters. Like I ain't getting another one. Like that. Like this is it. But unfortunately, the ones that I don't do that with are like like Wolverines, Captain America, Spider-Mans, and Punishers. So it's a large,
constant flow.
Yeah, and throw Hulk in there for good measure. So I mean, there's a lot of those guys floating around.
Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about. Well, first of all, how did you become involved with Toylanta?
So Joelanta 3, if I'm not mistaken. So I had met Buddy and Martin at one of the National G.I. Joe shows before it was an International G.I. Joe show, and then it became the International G.I. Joe show. And they're like, "Oh, we got a show in Atlanta. Come on out." And I think I made it to year 3. And then from year 3, I was involved somewhat, whether it was just hanging out and being part of the, we'll call them the groupies of the show. And, and that transitioned into eventually becoming like an actual vendor coordinator for Joelanta and Toylanta later on. And then doing things like getting certain guests for the show or tackling basically anything that needed tackle. Dude, quit messing with that. So, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah. No, we're not going to eat that. Okay. He decided to try to rip some trim off the wall because he's an idiot. But yeah, we're remodeling down here in the basement, so there's like stuff
stuff all over. Yeah.
Well, there's stuff for him to get into that he wouldn't normally mess with. He's just he's like, I can't help it. It's wood. I got to eat it. Just years and years ago, and then being involved, like very strong friendship with Buddy, who owned the shows, and being involved with the Cody Lane Foundation and those guys, and have some friends with just a lot of people that were either involved in directing the shows or maintaining the shows or putting the shows on. So, it just came about, and there is a much deeper story to how I acquired the show. But it really just at the time and the circumstance of what was going on, it needed to be sold and purchased, and I was, like my company was the one to do it.
Well, it sounds to me like you got involved and you started discovering like, oh wait, not only can I do this, I'm good at this.
Oh,
wait, I can do this too, and I'm also good at this, and kind of you found a thing.
Some of it was trial by fire. Some of it was like, hey, we'd like to know this person, or what's your opinion on this person? I'm like, oh yeah, they seem great. And they're like, all right, you think you can get them to the show? Sure. Let's do it. Let's throw a Hail Mary, see if it sticks. And it did. There was a couple of things where like some people that were running it at the time gave me like, okay, if you as a collector, who would you want to get at the show if you had these choices? And I'd be like this, that, or the other. And that, like lo and behold, that would come out. And then sometimes that was, heard, but nothing came to fruition. I don't know if you've noticed, we started doing this year with a little bit more guests.
Yeah. And let's talk about those right now.
Sure.
Just running down the list. And of course, everybody can check this out at toylanta.net. But Paige Turco.
Oh, yeah.
From Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 and 3, like, is my personal fandom for her. Right. Exactly. She's April O'Neil. Ernie Reyes Jr., who has been in everything we grew up watching, basically.
Sonya.
Got Steve Cardenas, who was a Red Ranger. Now, was he, my Power Rangers knowledge is 0. So is he, where is he in the Rangers mythology?
So he was the Red Ranger in the movie. He was the second Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, Red Ranger.
Okay.
Now, my stuff with Power Rangers, as in growing up, I had already kind of started to get into like, sports and females. So it really wasn't something that I was super into, but it was around. Like I still had friends that were into it. So I got to see a lot of it. Some of the toys were really cool. But my 2 oldest boys got into Power Rangers I don't know, 10, 11 years ago, something like that. And
Yeah.
that's really where like my knowledge of all of it came in. We actually started going to some shows so they could meet some of the Power Rangers, and that was a that was a thing, and the mythos and getting into like the comic books and learning about Power Rangers. I enjoy it. Like I wouldn't call it something that is a major fandom of mine, but like I can see why and the appeal and
Oh yeah, it's like ninjas and giant robots. Like
right.
of course it's awesome, but it just missed my sweet spot,
I was not necessarily in that window, though I did watch some of it at the time that it came out. A teenage boy had a little bit of a crush on maybe Amy Jo
Oh,
Johnson,
of
Pink
course, of
Ranger.
course. Yeah.
Yeah. I was watching it a little bit here and there.
And then Sergeant Slaughter, who is one of the first celebrities I ever met years and years and years ago, one of the nicest people you could ever hope to meet. And if you're a Joe fan and you don't have something signed by Sergeant Slaughter, I don't know what you're doing with your life.
What are you? Can you call yourself a GI Joe fan? I'd call you a maggot.
It's awesome to see him anytime. And then you've also got a number. Well, actually, Michael Charles Hill, I just interviewed a couple of weeks ago on the show.
Great guy.
For anybody listening or watching, check out that interview. He wrote Cold Slit. Well, he did a ton of stuff for Sunbow, which we found out over the course of the interview. I didn't know how extensive his role with Sunbow was, but also created my personal favorite toy set of all time, Special Mission Brazil.
Yep. Created Claymore.
And just absolutely wonderful to talk to. We did an hour and he was like, "Oh, are we done? I've got so much more." And I said, "You will be back. Don't worry."
Well, definitely hang out with him at the show because he's definitely an after hours hangout guy.
Oh, nice. Well, and we'll talk about the schedule actually in a minute. We've got to hit on a few more guests. Let's see here. We've got Daniel Benedict. So tell me a little bit about Daniel Benedict because I'm very interested in the backstory here.
So my first exposure to Daniel would be Castle Grayskull Men, the action figure from Masters Universe Classics, because that was the figure that he was involved creating, and it is one of the best figures in the line of my particular taste. Like I just think like that is a home run out the gate. There's been some other figures that I'm like, have for a figure that I had no sentimental knowledge of or attachment to. Like that thing was a home run for me. I love it. It's one of my favorites.
It's easily the best of the anniversary figures that came out.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great toy. And then I met Daniel a couple Power Cons ago, and he had already done the Fall of Grayskull fan film that hit like 1 million views on YouTube. And he's working on part 2 to that.
So he will be in attendance.
Yep.
From what I understand, an excellent person to chat up.
Mm-hmm.
Joshua Sky, which is another awesome one because if you're collecting Masters of the Universe Origins, those mini comics.
Yep. Series 11 and up. Series 11 and up, the Mattel Creations. Most of that is Josh. Also another guy that if you have time to do an interview with, he will probably, be one to do it. He likes to talk. He's a real fun guy. I've had many conversations with him over the phone that, we're supposed to be like a 5 or 10 minute thing. And we're like, oh crap, it's been an hour, he's a good dude. I really enjoy him. We share some friends in real life that it was just interesting,
So really, we're not going to hit all the guests now because there are a lot and they're all cool. They're all going to be fun to talk to. Is there anybody else you want to be sure to highlight just before we get on to the schedule?
Oh gosh. Well,
we already mentioned Carson's going to be there. Pixel Dan, Trevor Williams, toy photographer.
Yeah. Wayne will be there too from Retro Toy Quest, the book.
Which that book, I need to get volume 2 from him there because I've got the first volume.
You can. I hope that there's any in stock that you can get.
Yeah, it's incredible. Once you see it in person, like I think it's a difficult concept to explain to somebody, but once you see his photography and you see this book in person, it's a must-have.
It's very much reminiscent of the old Wish books and the old toy catalogs, and I enjoy it. Yeah, yep. Which, speaking of toy books, Pixel Dan will be there, so his Motu book will, be available.
Yes, speaking of large books that you don't want to do any interstate travel with.
You don't want to get hit with it from the back, that's for sure. That's
Right, exactly.
and while we're speaking on guests, Chartimus Prime will be there, and I have to shout that out because Russ is an extremely close friend of mine. I almost forget that he's coming as a guest.
Right, because in your head it's just like, oh yeah, he'll be there. Cool.
I mean, we talk on the phone pretty regular, text messages or whatever. So it's just kind of like, it's kind of, oh yeah, that's right, you're a guest of the show. I just assumed you were coming because whatever. But yeah, no, he's a guy that like toy reviews and things like that. My first real exposure to him was meeting him at a PowerCon. Like, I had heard the name and I'd maybe seen something on YouTube, but it wasn't something that, like, after I got to know the dude, I'm like, oh yeah, like, yeah. And I've seen the stories of like the kids that used to watch him that are now grown ups and,
right.
Are still in the community as a collector now. So it's kind of like, what they do is of some value. There's, like I said, if we don't, pass this on, it dies with us.
So we've talked about PowerCon a couple of times, and it's a convention that I always wanted to go to, but it was just too close to DragonCon for me.
Sure. Yeah.
But how did this PowerCon connection happen?
A couple years ago, before 2024 came around, and there, the buzz was there was not going to be a PowerCon 2024. I made a post on one of the chat groups that, hey, if I can help out, let me know. I'll do whatever I can to ensure that, the community has got some sort of something with PowerCon. And I didn't have these shows at that time. That was literally just Brett Barton, saying, hey, I'm here, what do you need? And, then we missed, 2024 and didn't look good for 2025. So some of our friends got together and, they asked me if that offer still stood. And I was like, yeah, sure. Now I've got these shows. We got a perfect place. Let's stick it at one of these shows. So
this takes place at the Gas South Convention Center during the day, which is wild. Because I remember when it was announced, because last year's was at Gas South as well, wasn't it?
Last year, Toylanta, 2024 Toylanta was at Gas South.
Okay, that was one I was not able to get to. So,
that kept a lot of people there because the roads being closed due to the hurricane, and roads being gone due to the hurricane.
Right. So when that announcement was made, I was like I didn't even know what to make of that, because having gone to Toylanta since it was the Great Atlanta Toy Convention,
right,
and since it was they were Toylanta was kind of a separate thing, and then they were together, then they were separate again. But in the hotels that it's typically hosted in, to see Gas South Convention Center, what a move! Like, how did you decide to go for it in that way? Because that's a big.
It is definitely a big move, and there are definitely a lot of big convention center areas in the Atlanta area, and this is one of them. And the show continues to grow, and maybe it goes to some bigger ones too. It just depends on availability of event centers and how easy it is to work with them.
It just felt like such a massive step to go from sort of trade hotel to convention center, let's go.
Well, the need had been there for a couple of years. It was the means and the timeline and the knowledge of how to get it done.
Yeah.
If you were at 2024 Toylanta, the company literally bought the show right before it.
Mm-hmm.
As in they other than circumstances to the ones that knew behind the scenes, the reality of the owners actually going to the show due to health and things like that was improbable. We signed on the dotted line the day or two before, and I was there. And while I was there, and we did some advertising and some blasts, and I called in some favors, and that Toylanta was extremely packed. If you were at 2024,
we actually did a panel at that one, And I
I wouldn't
remember,
know because I was running around putting out fires, metaphorically the entire time.
and I remember there was already a buzz. Like, if the fact that you had just a couple days before finalized that, but there was already, and I guess that's just how the toy community is. Like, people are thirsty, whether it's about a new line coming out or a new wave or whatever. People are thirsty for information. So I guess maybe
There,
that sort of helped it a little bit.
yeah, and there was some behind the scenes stuff at play. I don't want to get into all the politics.
No, of course not.
Because
There's
there
no
was definitely
reason to.
there was some politics before and after. But like what I did was what I did for the reasons that I did it. A lot of it had to do with helping out a friend in their health and their life situation. But even before, like getting Animals Warriors of the Kingdom there, and a couple other vendors like later additions or confirmations, I gave up my booth for them to be there. Like so that AWOC could be out at the show.
Well, and again, that's a move. That's understanding having this presence here sends a message that is worth more than just me having my table here or whatever.
True, but also like I mean, I'm friends with Jason and the AWOC crew, and when I was vendor coordinating, was like, I'm gonna make sure you guys are there because they expressed wanting to be there, and then it just like there were some things done behind the scenes on how vendors could get their stuff to where basically there was no space.
Yeah. I got you.
And that sort of happened rapidly. And you could call it a mistake or whatever. It just, like when you do something in good faith, you don't expect people to take advantage of it. And some of the vendors may have taken advantage of some stuff, or some new people may have taken advantage of it, realize that they could, log back in and get another spot.
I got you.
Yeah. So that was, the control on some of that was divided into just interesting mechanics, and some people that had been there before as a vendor were unable to get their spots. There were some people that were unhappy, which you can't please everybody, but some of that was just, we'll call it a glitch in the system.
Sure.
Which, I mean, we're experimenting with things now. We've had some glitches with what we're doing now, but we're trying to make sure that doesn't happen. Anytime you have like a transition of guard, old guard, new guard, how things were done versus how things are done now, there's always a little bit of ripple.
Of course. Of course. Well, it's again, this move up is amazing. It's admirable, the fact that you're taking this thing and really turning it into it's not just Toylanta now. And I've loved Toylanta ever since it was Great Atlanta Toy Convention.
Right.
But to see it grow in this way, and to see it where it feels like it's competing on a national level with all of these other conventions that I always wanted to go to.
International, baby.
International. Yeah. Listen to this guy. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Keep the eyes. Pay attention.
I love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So in the convention center during show hours, but then that's not the end of it. And that's something with a lot of like the Comic-Cons and toy shows and stuff. You just go during the day, you buy your stuff, and you're done. But after hours events at 2 different host hotels, and this is the stuff, look, don't get me wrong, I'll spend all day buying toys, but if I'm going to any kind of convention, I want to party.
Oh, yeah, there's that aspect.
And I see karaoke with DJ T-Jaw, 10 p.m. to close. That's the magic word to me right there, is to close.
Yeah.
That is not defined at all, and I love that.
No, it's not. I've got some parameters from the hotel, but that is the reason why it's at that hotel versus the other hotel.
Absolutely.
My relationship with the sales and staff at that hotel is it's pretty solid. So that's why, like, I mean, if we're gonna get fussed at over being out late, let's do it at the people that actually like us, that we've had a relationship with before. And I'm one to stay up late and do karaoke anyway. So maybe have a drink or 10.
Well, and that's That's why the first year I went to Joe Fest, it was such a revelation because I hadn't been to a toy focused convention
Sure.
that had that kind of, because Joe fans will stay out all night.
Oh yeah, and that has been going on since the national international shows. Like that's
Right,
nothing
right.
new. Um, I don't know if you ever saw the Roma collectible shirt. My drinking friends have a GI Joe problem. My drinking buddies have a GI Joe problem.
No, I haven't seen
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
I used to have that shirt about 2 sizes ago, so I outgrew it.
Oh
You know.
yeah, yeah. I've got my drawer of shirts that no longer work, but I can't get rid of.
Oh
You know
yeah,
how that
yeah,
goes.
yeah. Yeah.
So what else can we talk about as far as Toylanta 2025 goes? Like
Well,
what
I do think it's important to touch on that after hours and the ticket packages and things like that, because your average attendee, we'll say 60-40 down the road, probably just wants to go to a toy show. And
yeah,
that's where like the classic ticket would come in, because that's just stuff at the convention center. The classic is just, if you're wanting to go to a show for a couple days, get that one. If you're wanting to go after hours, get the VIP, because the amount of bodies and stuff that we expect, if everybody just bought the cheap $25 ticket, there's no way either hotel could handle it.
right,
Like
right.
it's just doesn't exist. You know.
Well, and that's the other thing is making these conventions a destination where you want people to come for all 3 days. You want people to hang out at night. You want to make it a trip, an event, and not just again, I mentioned Dragon Con before. When I go to Dragon Con, I'm down there Thursday through Monday.
Sure.
Like it's like
It's
Disney.
consuming.
I get down there and I don't leave. And the sort of movement to create more of an event like that based around these toy shows, I think is such a good thing because people need getaways.
Oh yeah, need an escape from reality. But yeah, it's the experience. It's the
Yeah.
camaraderie. It's the community. It's not just like, any of us can go meet with our regular buddies and do this stuff on the weekend and go watch a game, or go do whatever, go to a movie, and then have a couple drinks at a bar or something afterwards. But this is more like people you only see once or twice a year, getting
Yeah.
together, having a good. I've got friends coming from France, potentially Ireland. It's like, these are things where, like, you make it a destination, you make it an experience, and it's something that you put in your, I'm doing it if I can do it.
Yeah.
It's almost like a holiday. It's almost like if you have a tradition of you're going somewhere for this holiday or that holiday, you make sure you go to grandma's house on Thanksgiving, because that's the idea.
Well, and that's why I like the timing of this right now as well, because this springtime, this is taking place March 28th, 29th, and 30th,
Yep.
and it's not near anything.
And that's
It's
what we want. But there are, with me and being a promoter and being involved with other shows or friends that have shows, I had to like stay away from certain toes that are friends.
mm,
And it's not that I would step on toes intentionally. There are some shows that are actually the same weekend. They're just hundreds of miles away.
yeah,
And
yeah,
while I do enjoy those shows and I would typically attend those shows, these are the dates that I was given by the convention center. These were the dates that allowed through my family to have this show. Because when I'm
right,
gone working, it's work. It's
yeah,
like, even though there is hanging out and partying and having a good time, like it's solid work for I'm gone from my family for a week.
yeah.
So it's one of those, got to kind of pick your battles on.
So the ticketing, there's the regular old ticket that's just if you just want to go down to the convention, look at some toys, buy some toys, hang out. Basic ticket, classic ticket.
Mm-hmm.
The Power Up VIP, this is like everything except access wise, this is everything.
It is. You just don't get guaranteed the figure.
Right. And then there's the big VIP that includes the figure. He gets access to everything. And we'll go ahead and say, because I think it's a bargain, because the figure is $50.
Yeah, you actually save if you're to buy the VIP ticket. You actually save about $15 ish if you're counting like like splitting hairs on like taxes and buying things separately and things like that. You save a few dollars.
Oh, I don't think toy collectors are one to split hairs over money.
Yeah.
Never happens.
Okay.
So, but for a weekend experience, I mean, this is all. I don't think you can have a better time for this amount of money. $25 for just regular old hangout, buy some toys. 50 for the VIP, 100 for the VIP with the figure.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to spend that on a weekend going out to eat.
Right, which we allotted only certain amounts of the figure available pre-sale. So once those sell, that ticket package will disappear.
Nice.
And I expect them to sell out because we're roughly halfway there to a degree. It just depends on whether I allow a few more here, a few more there, kind of deal. I just I go to Legion's Con and I try to buy the figures and wait in line and so I know how it can be. It's so much more intelligent to just go ahead and buy the ticket. But then again, I'm the guy with the show and it sounds like a sales pitch. So,
well, no, but it is. I think anybody that's been paying attention
buy
here,
the figure.
anybody that pays attention here, obviously you're running a business and you've got an interest in it. However, everything you've said is coming from the heart of a collector who understands what this stuff is like.
Sure, and it's a community deal. Like I pretty much. I'll go ahead and drop it on here. So Collector Magazine is going to be giving out a tote bag and a issue with those that buy the VIP ATL 25 while supplies last. That doesn't mean everybody that buys it, but there is a finite number of those magazines that are going to be put in a little bag when you get it at check-in.
That's awesome. That's great. And Collector Magazine, who has been, Toy Fair will never be replaced and is sorely missed, but it is great to see an actual publication again.
Oh yeah, this the current January, February. I don't know if you picked that issue up, but there's a nice AWOC spread in there, 6-page, right in the middle of Animals, Warriors of the Kingdom, Sparrow Toys. It's beautiful. Shout out to Jason and the crew. But it's definitely worth picking up. So it was worth picking up just so that I could see that, and have it tangibly. But the magazine's really good. It's got a nice independent focus too.
Yes.
They focus on everything.
Well, and it's very professional. It does not feel like, a lot of times things that come from fans, you can tell they come from fans. This is a professional publication. It's beautifully done. If anybody watching or listening, if you have not had the opportunity to see an issue of Collector in person, you got to check it out. I think. What's the bookstore that's still in some of the malls?
Books a Million and Barnes and Noble both carry the issues.
Books a Million, yeah. Books a Million's the one I'm thinking of. I don't think we've got any Barnes and Nobles around.
I picked it up at Books a Million. That's because Barnes and Noble is nowhere in the path that I travel.
Exactly.
It's around the corner, and I just forget it's there half the time. It's behind a Chili's that I'll never eat at again. So it's like I forget it's out there.
Well, we got to wrap this thing up. Before we go, one, is there anything else you want to tell us about Toylanta 2025? And tell us where else we can find you online.
Like me personally online?
Just any information about Toylanta, anything you want to throw out there.
Let me get this dude over here while he's messing with stuff. Toylanta.net, Facebook and Instagram, official social medias are the best places for the updates. There's still a thing or two that are in the works that hopefully we'll get to make some announcements if they come to fruition. Just kind of like that Toy Collector magazine I just mentioned and giving with the ATL VIPs. We'll probably have a blurb about that and some pictures. Just touching base on the exclusive head again, because that's something that, needs to be clear and precise. And we'll probably get some verbiage up about that. Just come out and have a good time. That's really kind of what we're wanting. I can't promise that you are going to find exactly what you're looking for, but hopefully if you're looking for a good time, you will find that, because that's really what it's about.
Well, and that's what's so great about toy conventions is you may not find what you're looking for, but you're going to find something.
Yeah. So I quit looking for something specific. I just go have a good time, see what I can see, go to whatever shows I can go to. And if I find something for the collection, I pick it up most last couple of years. I've been picking up new friends. Then that's always fun and good experiences, and that's the way that's really the success for longevity over here.
Well, Brett, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been awesome talking about toys and Toylanta, and I hope I can see you in March. But I understand you'll probably be a little busy.
Dude, you're welcome to stop by, especially after
Definitely.
hours. I don't know if you like whiskey or anything, but I typically have been known to have one. So
I might enjoy one from time to time.
yeah, me too. Karaoke, I usually have one or two before
Yes.
that starts.
What's your song? What's your song?
Dude, I sing just about anything. Like I like different types of music, different types of things, but I'll do a couple different things just depending on who's leading first and what they're doing, that kind of deal.
Awesome. Well, thank you
You
so
want Garth
much,
Brooks,
man.
it's there. You want Johnny Cash, it's there. You want something metal? I'm sure I can find something metal.
Awesome. Well, I'll find you down there and we'll do some Pantera.
Okay, respect.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, we'll see. You guys have a good time.
Smash that like button if you like Needless Things.